What's up, good people? This is Isaiah. And as we can see, we have Ashtear at 255 lights. That's what I'm talking about. All right, now, for those that watched the last video I did on the Isle of Gospel and my one-click team for that, you would remember that I had her at 71. So within 2 weeks, we went from 71 to 255, right? And I don't know if I mentioned it in the video, but those that have been following me know that I have Mariel at 255. So, and that helps, believe it or not. And I'll explain why and how I'm able to do this in a bit. So I did this for 3 characters, right? Ashtear, Colette, and Sheila. I finished all 3 of them last month. All right, so here's how this worked. First things first, I was running the dungeons like a madman, right? Like every day, I was running the dungeons. If I really wanted to be extremely mad, then I would set timers, so I would know how long it takes for the keys to refresh, and then run again, and then run on set timers, set intervals every day. You know what I mean? And that's just one thing you can't do. I'm not saying you should, but it's one thing you can't do, right? But also, if you have an abundance of chronostones, you can use them, right, to constantly keep purchasing red and green keys, you know? Anyway, but running the dungeons like mad helps. So in Ashtear's case, she has her own dungeon, and then we have TTW. Her dungeon takes up 2 green keys, like the Gariyu dungeons do. And then I'd run the Total Theater's world, right? I'd run his world, you know, and bounce it back and forth. As soon as I ran out of the green keys, into TTW I went, running that. All right. And I did that, which got her up to that 70. And then, of course, when the Mariel banner dropped, I took advantage of it, meaning it wasn't just a Mariel banner. There was another banner that had I think they had 2 anniversary banners. I believe that's what those were. And I'm like, okay, so the percentage of getting anyone in these banners is increased. All right, cool. I'm taking advantage of this. So I did a few polls on, I believe that first one that had Mariel in it. And, man, yeah, I mean, I kept getting Mariel. It's just I already had her. Okay. I kept getting Mariel and I kept getting Nikoko, right? Which was a bit worrying, really, because I didn't want more Nikoko. I don't want more Nikokos. Reason why is because for my team comp right now, I want her to act after Ify does. And in some cases, she can act before, and I don't want that. So if she finishes up, she gets an extra 30 speed, and I didn't want the extra 30 speed. So I'm like, man, I need to stop getting Nikoko. You know what I mean? But I kept getting Mariel, both versions of her, right? Her, Mariel, both versions, Lele, Curio, both of which are maxed out. And what's the other one? Soria, who's also maxed out, right? So during my pulls and taking advantage of those banners, right, I kept getting these maxed out, these characters I already have done, right? So of course, with the, say when I got ES Mariel, with the extra staff I gave to Flamme, not Flamme, but Eva, right? That was under Another Eden Adventures. I had mentioned it. I had 130 or so guiding light staffs because I kept getting these characters I already finished. So with that, I'm like, okay, cool, not bad. You know what I mean? Finished up Eva, but then I asked myself, it would be nice to get Flamelopus done, which I did. So because I had the rest of the guiding light, and I'm like, you know what, I might as well use them. You know, so I gave them to her. Then, of course, I kept running the dungeons like I normally would. And then I'm like, you know, I could probably finish up Ashtear faster if, say, every 3 or 4 days, I do a pull on that banner for as long as it's available. All right. So I would run the dungeons like normal, right? Do a pull. Okay, cool. I'll get more Mariel, who, of course, I have finished. So I'm like, all right, cool. Giving them the Ashtear. because I have Mariel finished, I'm getting 16 additional guiding lights for fist users. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give them to Ashtear. Go back to run the dungeon, do a pull, rinse and repeat. And sure enough, I finished up Ashtear. And then because of all that pulling, I was getting a bunch of other characters that I have maxed out again. So I mentioned where is she? Here we go. So I kept getting her. She's done. I kept getting her. So I'm like, all right, fine. So with all the guiding light lances, I'm looking at, okay, who are the lance characters that are free? I remember Sheila. I'm like, oh, okay. I had enough. I had enough guiding light lances because I kept getting this one here. I have 23 left over. That I could have just finished Sheila one shot. And that's exactly what I did. Just finish her up. One shot. You know what I mean? Didn't really have to. Could have gave it to anybody else here. I could have finished up his Mena, Tiramisu, Bria, Seti, Bertrand. I could have finished up any of these characters here. It's like I had that much, you know? So I just gave him to, of course, the free character. Really, so I want to finish up like these free characters. You know what I mean? So there was that. And then, of course, same thing with Colette, who I also finished, right? Finished her up last month. Same concept, right? During my polling for that banner, I think it's the I'm pretty sure it was the anniversary banner. During my polling for it, what I had happen was I was getting Chio, Lele, Yuno, Arena Palm, like pretty much those that are at 255 right now. I was getting a bunch of them. You know what I mean? Even had Eva say hello. It was weird. I'm like, okay, haven't seen her in a while. So I'm like, all right, because these characters are maxed out, every time you got them, it was 16 additional guiding light staffs. So when I got Lele, right, because I always got her AS version. I don't think I've seen her normal style in a very long time, but I kept getting her. 16. Okay, cool. Give it to Colette. You know what I mean? Get Chio. Okay, cool. Give it to Colette. Got Yuna. Gave it to Colette. Mariel. Gave it to Colette. Right? I just kept doing it. You know what I mean? Because I had so many of them. So I kept doing that. And then I was running TTW. Really. And literally, it was pretty crazy how fast, like, Colette was finished. Really. Because I did the pull, finishing up Ashtear, but I kept getting these staff characters like I mentioned before. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just give Colette the extra staff, but focus on Ashtear. When Ashtear was done, I still had a bunch of guiding light staffs left over. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to give her the rest and then run TTW, since I didn't have to run TTW for Ashtear anymore. So brought in Colette, ran TTW. I was getting 3 drops. You know what I mean? Like, I recall the night, I had ran it about 5 times. And each time, it was like a 3 drop. I'm like, okay, I must be incredibly lucky today. I finished her up before I went to bed. I was like, all right, cool. Now what? Now I finished up 3 characters. Sheila, Ashtear, and Colette. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Again, that helped. What else? Trials is another thing that can also help. So, for those of you that are, say, light spenders, all right, not whales. What would you all consider a whale anyway? Like, what is the dollar amount, really? Like, if I spent $100 on the game, right, would I be considered a whale? Right? Like, how much does someone have to spend to be considered a whale? Okay. But if you're currently subscribed to the trials, right, you got to ask yourself, all right, if you look at your pool of characters that you currently have right now, all right, all of them, not just story characters, every single character you got, how much light and staff they currently have, and which ones are common, right? Understanding that, okay, if you know you're going to do another poll later on in the month, or say next month, look at your characters like your shadow and ask yourself, okay, if I complete this character, what are the odds of me getting this character again? You know what I mean? Odds are, depending on the character, it could be incredibly high. So in my case, I'm always getting Lele and Chio. As far as staff uses are concerned, I'm always getting these 2. Lele, Chio, and who was the other one? Palm, and this guy who looks like a mad scientist. He probably is a mad scientist. All right. Did I do his quest? Nope. So I don't know if he's a mad scientist. He looks like one, but I was always getting them. So because of that, I finished them, because I'm like, all right, look, the odds of me getting them again are pretty damn high for me, based on my own history with these particular characters. So I knew that if I finished them, right, this guy in particular, and of course Palm and Arena, that is her name, right? Yeah. So I knew by finishing them, I was going to get 4 guiding light staffs. So I took the trials, finished them. This was months ago. Took the trials and finished them, knowing that, okay, to some, this is probably the dumbest idea ever. But I know that if I do a pull and I get any of them during that pull, I'm going to get 4 guiding light staffs for them. You know what I mean? I knew this, so I took advantage of it. So me spending the additional, say, trial money, if you will, to finish them up, I got them in my very next pull, so I made up for the difference. You know what I mean? But the trials should probably average about 30 to 50 staff or shadow, depending on how they do the bonuses. So I took the extra, finished them up. I got it all back in my very next pull. So, well, I got my 30 staff back. You know what I mean? So I used it to finish all the characters. So again, it's really like a 3-prone attack, if you will. Running the dungeons like a madman, like really running them like mad. Okay. Having enough chrono stones to run them like mad. Really. If you, like, for example, I forget, I swear there was someone who, he finished up Curio. I think it was Curio in like 6 weeks. As soon as he was released, he finished him in like 6 weeks. He spent like 15, I forget the number, I think it was like 15,000 chrono stones just running the dungeon constantly. And he finished them up in like 6 weeks. You know what I mean? So it's definitely possible to do incredibly quickly. At least you gotta have the stones to be able to do that. And then running the dungeons, taking advantage of the banners, right, when they make sense. So like in my case, I took advantage of the anniversary banners, right? I did my 1 pull for the His-Mena banner and I left it alone because I got His-Mena. Also got some more shadow for Suzette, who she's already done. So there's that. And then the trials, really. So that's been my approach to finishing these characters. It's just that at the end of last month, I got really ambitious with it, and I wanted to finish as many characters as I possibly could. Like, in regards to characters that I finished last month in total, finished Colette, Eva, Flamme, Ashtear, Sheila. Who else did I finish? Yeah, I would say I finished all of them all last month. So, plan now is probably to work on Nona, finish up Nona. And the beauty about Nona's dungeon is that they're all red keys, so that gives me green keys to basically run like Underworld, right, to get more bullseye ores because I want more of them. So I'll be doing that, and then of course, if and when I decide to get Noah, I'll pretty much provide him with a very comfortable bump in Shadow, right? Because with my shadows, I have Ewan and Pry finished. For some odd reason, this game likes to give me Pry, right? So, of course, every time I get them, it's more guiding light luring shadow hammers. So as a result of that, I have about 130 luring shadow hammers. So if and when I decide to get Noah, I'll just give him all 130 of them. You know what I mean? Providing him with an extra 100. I don't know. Does he join your party at 0? Or does he join your party at 16? You know what I mean? So that's how I'll be doing that for Noah. Again, if and when I decide to get him, right? So again, these are just really my progress and some ideas. You know what I mean? Like I said, for the dungeon clearing, right? Assuming it isn't like a Gariyu where you can get Grasta and things of that nature, right? Run the green key version of that character's dungeon with your green keys, and then run TTW, right? Using your red keys, just improving your odds of getting light or shadow for those characters. You know what I mean? All right. So That's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I will talk to you all later.